This will be a quick look at CARE's latest Islamophobia report entitled Islamophobia in the Mainstream. Quickly, in part, because Islamophobia in the Mainstream is a collection of previous CARE reports. Part 1 is a review of Hijacked by Hate. Both of these CARE reports share the same thesis. Donor-advised funds are underwriting hate.
A lot of these corporations may not know what they're doing, or they may not think that there are going to be any consequences to what they're doing. So the first thing is exposing what's being done. The second thing is reaching out to these corporations, to these entities, to let them know, these foundations, to let them know why what they are doing is wrong, why it is harmful to the Muslim community, and then making the demand that they divest. And if they refuse to do so, well, then we have to put public pressure on them to do so.
From Hijacked by Hate. Traditional American charities, foundations, and philanthropic institutions are being used to anonymize and funnel money from powerful donors through the Islamophobia network. And from Islamophobia in the Mainstream, we hope this report illustrates how mainstream Islamophobia is and how foundations normalize anti-Muslim animus by pouring millions into organizations that produce misinformation. In 2019, Hijacked by Hate was reviewed by Capital Research, where they found that CARE also receives money from Schwab. CARE belongs to their own network, and they have a lot of money.
We want to keep it real. This is what this is what CARE is supposed to do. This is what the show is supposed to do. Let's keep it real.
Minnesota killed George Floyd.
We're asking the Department of Justice to look into this.
This is an Islamophobic incident.
We also put out a statement today encouraging American Muslims not to travel to France.
When reading any of CARE's reports, it's interesting to keep in mind that it is CARE who is talking to you. For example, here CARE says that some have argued, but there is no some, only CARE. The citation takes us to the footnote, where the link takes us to a report from CARE, where they say the same thing about donor-advised funds. And notice, they admitted they don't have much of a cause, but they would still like their demands done anyway. Part 2 is a restating of 3 of CARE's school bullying reports from California, Boston, and Dallas-Fort Worth. This problem with self-reference is present in CARE's bullying reports as well. The pattern is the same for all 3 reports, where CARE surveys a small number of students and gives us percentages based on that number. They never compare their percentages to the total student population. This is a microscopic percentage of the overall student population. Could some of the lower percentages, like the 17% hijab pulls, be from the 7th graders who managed to cope better in high school, suggesting that children begin socializing better over time and that there is no crisis? Even among CARE's hand-picked survey subjects, the majority keep saying they don't have the problems CARE is looking for. This would be further evidence that CARE does not represent the Muslim community. Part 3 consists of mosque vandalism and fires. This really had little to do with CARE. In fact, it's another example of CARE not being a representative of the broader Muslim community.
First tonight on Fox, we have exclusive video tonight of someone spraying graffiti at a downtown mosque. The nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group wants Charleston police to consider the possibility of a bias motive. Fox 24's Rachel Ellis spoke with the group about their concerns. She has the latest. Rachel?
Bill, good evening. We told you yesterday about 2 separate incidents that happened about a week apart at the Islamic Center of Charleston. Right now, investigators call it a case of vandalism. Tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations tells me cases like this one raises real concern.
When you have people, or if you have people in your community who hold bigoted views, often it moves beyond vandalism to other kinds of incidents.
The nationwide Muslim and civil rights advocacy group says graffiti on a wall could turn into something more serious.
Given the fact that we've seen so many incidents targeting mosques, churches, synagogues, Sikh temples, and other houses of worship around the country, we just thought it was important law enforcement authorities at least consider the possibility of a bias motive when they're doing the investigation.
We checked with police about vandalism at the Central Mosque of Charleston. They say no suspects have been identified. Surveillance video shows 3 suspects vandalizing the mosque on 2 different days in January, the 19th and the 30th. The Council on American Islamic Relations asked law enforcement to investigate for a possible bias motive.
The nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group wants Charleston police to consider the possibility of a bias motive.
Tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations tell me cases like this one raises real concern.
A Charleston student got more than a bad grade today. 18-year-old Haley Riddle is charged with spray painting graffiti on the side of the Islamic Center of Charleston last month. She appeared in court today.
But her attorney told ABC News 4 exclusively there was nothing malicious about it.
I want the community to understand that what she spray painted was utterly blessed in pink and purple writing. It was in no way a derogatory term.
He says he knows because he immediately polygraphed Riddle 3 times as soon as he took her case.
She had no intent to deface a religious center. We polygraphed her on that very issue. She had no idea before or during this incident that it was the Islamic Center or a place of worship.
We make a big deal out of small situations. It's just a little bit of paint on the side of a mosque.
That's Michael Griffin. He attends the mosque across the street from the Islamic Center of Charleston.
I don't think she needs to spend any time in jail. We know how much it costs to incarcerate people, and there's really no long-term benefit in her going to jail just for a little bit of spray paint on the side of a building.
You have to be joking, but they are not joking. They are committed heavily to the hope that no one will read their reports. All of these cases seem to be isolated incidents. This case seems to show that the system is working and the police have charged him. Are we to believe that this wouldn't have happened if Pamela Geller were defunded? The only example of a mosque fire CARE gives is this one, where police say, although it was arson, there is no evidence it was a hate crime. It must be said that there is nothing like this in CARE's report.
Authorities are continuing to probe Saturday's 11-hour standoff at a synagogue outside Fort Worth, Texas, when an armed British man took a rabbi and 3 congregants hostage.
We are hearing that from 3 senior law enforcement officials that a man is holding a rabbi and potentially others hostage at this Fort Worth area synagogue and has told authorities there that he wants the release of Afia Siddiqui.
The hostage taker is reportedly demanding the release of Dr. Hafia Siddiqui, the Pakistani neuroscientist sentenced to 86 years in federal prison in nearby Fort Worth, Texas, just 17 miles away from this congregation, from this synagogue.
The Muslim lobbying group CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, has waged a very public campaign to free Afia Siddiqui. The group says that the hostage taking yesterday is, quote, an unacceptable act of evil. And the group says it does stand in solidarity with the Jewish community. In fact, the executive director of the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of CARE condemns what happened, calling it wrong, heinous, and, quote, something that is completely undermining our efforts to get Dr. Afia released. But take a look at this event that was held by CARE's Texas chapter just 2 months ago to support her release from federal prison. The Facebook event was billed as Injustice Dr. Afia in November. It featured CARE's Texas leader, along with Siddiqui's lawyer, and controversial activist Linda Sarsour. There have also been rallies held in New York, Washington, Boston, and Texas demanding that she be released. Meantime, the standoff in Colleyville reminds us that the threat of radical Islamic terrorism has not diminished here at home.
If Pamela Geller is to be held responsible for anything bad that happens to Muslims, then shouldn't CARE take responsibility for the Colleyville synagogue attack?
This is such an important issue because we cannot simply wait for an anti-Muslim incident to happen and then respond to it. We have to nip this in the bud. We have to go to the source, and that means also confronting the funding of anti-Muslim organizations.
Parts 4 and 5 are a collection of things said online that CARE does not like. The fundamental flaw in CARE's report is their idea that defunding Pamela Geller is going to stop Islamophobia. CARE never shows a cause and effect. Defunding their political opponents is the only remedy they can offer for school bullying, mosque vandalism, and mean tweets. The resulting increase in resentment from CARE, in effect robbing people, is apparently a price CARE is willing to pay. In exchange for a potential increase in, say, mosque burnings, CARE will gain the ability to take money from people they don't like. There are too many examples to overlook of CARE trying to hurt people. Their desire to fire, defame, expose to danger, or hurt people is a prime motivating factor for the Council on American Islamic Relations.
We have to nip this in the bud.